Welcome to the last module. Congratulations. Most people don't finish what they start, so a big pat on the back for you. I am rooting you on. I have a confession to make actually. I wasn't always great at telling stories that included personal detail, and as I mentioned earlier, I love to tell other people's stories. I was a journalist actually, but as a journalist, you are trained not to insert yourself in the story. Writing an article would get you fired from the organizations that you worked for, like NBC for example. But in marketing, it's celebrated. As Donald Miller says in his wonderful book, Build a Story Brand, people want you to be a part of their transformation. In other words, fully stepping into your role as their guide requires that they get to know who you are. In learning how to tell personal stories in my marketing, I faced all of the same challenges you do. Wondering if my life lessons were valuable, how much is too much to share, do people even care about my stories? But if you recall from Module 2, you know how that story ends. Once I started to tell my stories, marketing felt less like marketing, and it felt more like a conversation. It was less stressful, more engaging, and welcomed more of my dream clients like you than anything that I learned through the marketing courses that I attended at Columbia's University. So the skill that I want to leave you with today is a journalism skill, and it served me in becoming the best marketing work that I could be more than anything else that I've learned in my career. And the skill is observation, honing the ability to see things that others overlook in everyday life is cornerstone of original, engaging content. Not only that, offering original insights on age problems and experiences is the difference between entrepreneurs who really make it and ones who get lost in the crowd, you see. We talked about in last module how important having insights and showing that your customers that your approach is unique and your thought process is different than what's out there is so valuable in making sales easier through storytelling, and honing these observations is one of the greatest ways to tell better stories. So the good news is that you are already telling stories by virtue of being human, and the great news is once you're aware of these stories, things that are happening all around you, you're going to have endless storytelling inspiration that comes from these observations that you can make from everyday life. Because we're constantly interpreting events, validating emotions, making sense of the world around us through narrative. Stories give us meaning. They give us context for the things we do and the things that happen to us. Not only every moment is going to be the story-worthy moment, but there are story-worthy moments in everyday life, and really the trick is just to switch off on a pilot and start being more observant, just getting to notice the things that are happening to you. So that's what this practice is all about. It's about becoming a storyteller for life, not just plug-and-play frameworks for the rest of your career. And those will certainly help you, and they are going to help you hit the ground running. But ultimately, what I want for you here is to become a real storyteller. So you can do this second nature. So this could be your default mode of communicating. And it'll serve you well, not just in your short form social posts and your newsletters, but if you ever speak on a stage or when you're one-on-one with a client and you're trying to explain something to them. And like these are the stories that you want to start cultivating in your own life. So this comes from a TED Talk from an award-winning storyteller and best-selling author Matthew Dix, and he has this 5-minute habit that he uses to catch his stories, and he calls it homework for life. So basically it goes like, at the end of each day you ask yourself what was the most important moment from the day, and if you had to tell a 5-minute story about the day, what would it be? So I do this practice in a Google Sheet because I'm not a big fan of fancy systems, and I'm going to give you that Google Sheet. It's right here in this module for you. But what you do is you write down a few sentences, and it really doesn't have to be a whole story. In fact, if you're telling a whole story, you've kind of lost the point of the exercise, and you're not likely to keep doing it, which is the most practical part of the exercise. It's the consistency, I say, of it more than it is. you sit down and write a story every day, so you just want to include enough detail to capture what happens. And usually I've given you this tip before, but taking inspiration from my senses, like how I feel things in my body, to bring things to life in a story. So the sight, sound, smells, texture during those everyday moments, and in addition to jotting down the actual facts of what happened, just enough facts so I remember what happened. I'll also include how I felt, and any lessons are insights, but I don't force that, you see. Like if I have an aha moment, or I'm like, that reminded me of something else, then I'll put it there, but I don't force it. I don't sit there and try to make it happen. The reason why I do that, I'll talk about the end here. But those are the details. You just want to capture some of those details and make the story interesting. And we know that, believability is relatability. So any sort of thing that you're doing that maybe your client does, your behavior in Canva, maybe you're writing a newsletter or something that they can relate to, if you could start capturing how you're feeling in those moments. So it's really going to bring things to life for them, I say. And then so this is it isn't just a habit of writing. It's really about developing this regular practice of becoming aware of the richness around us. And I actually use this. It's become like a really nice way to end my day. It reminds me of the things that I can be grateful for in my life, and it helps me catch and remember those moments that might otherwise slip by. Life just goes by really fast, so here's a look at mine, and you'll see it's not super exciting at face value, but within a couple weeks of using this practice, I could see the tangible room. I'll usually sit down about once a month, and it's pretty fun to review these stories, just taking in inventory of all things that went by that month. But more practically, it does help me and free a past that I otherwise would have forgotten about this. This post did really well for me, and it was about a conversation that I had in the comment section that I honestly probably would have forgot about had I not written it down that day, and it ended up just being a really easy storytelling piece of content to write that was helpful for other people, and it just came together really easily. And from this little practice, when you're writing them down, you might not realize that they're going to turn into a story one day. I'll show you how connecting the dots is really going to come in handy here, and you're within a few weeks you're going to realize just how many stories you have to tell. So really what we want to remember here is that the stories don't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be we really want to get into those, let's say, commonalities that we talked about. It's all about that relatability. So people are going to relate more to your trip to the gas station than they are a time you got pulled up on stage. So this final exercise, this final spreadsheet, is a twist on Matt Stick's homework for life. Don't give up if you skip a few days or months. I'm certainly not perfect at this either, but it's just the practice of doing it that makes me more aware and observant, that serves me well in the long run. I really want to leave you with this quote from Adam Grant, who sums this all up so perfectly about why we would do this. And it's actually something that I think about a lot. I owe a lot of my viral content ideas to the ability to connect dots through observations and insights. I thought it would be a good place for us to warm up. And he said in a recent post, the hallmark of expertise is no longer how much you know, it's how well you synthesize. It's not enough to collect facts. The factor belongs to those who collect the dots. Information abundance requires pattern recognition. So that's really what you're doing here, because information, especially in 2024, 2025, and beyond, it's going to take a back seat to those insights that we talked about. that's going to have just such a direct impact on being able to create original content and content that people are going to find attention grabbing. It's going to be those original insights told through original stories. And it definitely means taking those moments from your life and trying them and tying them to concepts to illustrate the change that you help people create in their lives, like the stories that AI can't match, and competition they can't copy. They're going to come from your life. They're going to be metaphors, and knowledge is hooks and things like as you keep going, as you keep collecting your story, it's going to get a lot easier to use the frameworks, even because you're just going to have this abundance of storytelling ideas in your back pocket. So you're really becoming a storyteller more than anything else. So because it's these stories that are going to grow your brand and the community that loves them back, and just want to say thank you so much for being here from the bottom of my heart. I really can't wait to see what you share. So if you would please use hashtag storycraft so you could find your storytelling bots on Instagram. I will read them. I would love to check them out and see how you're applying these formulas. And if you found this course helpful at all, leaving a review would be so appreciated by the small business owner. And the next small business owner is wondering if this course could help them too. Thank you so much for being here, and happy storytelling. If you have any questions during the course, just post them right here in the Q&A section. I personally read and reply to every message, and if you enjoyed the course, please take a minute to leave a review. It really helps other students discover the course and support our work at ForgeHubAcademy.